And yeah, it's Wednesday, July 10th. And yeah, we're doing another show focused on continuing that conversation around the Blazor authentication with that SignInManager. So a different set of videos from what we did a few weeks ago, and where we actually got to a really good point at the end of the previous video, if I remember right, where we actually got the SignInManager working, but it didn't. It went through the process, but it didn't do what we did in the previous piece, where it knew who you were and passed all the authentication information over, if I remember right.
Yeah. I think the way I would say it is that we have implemented the bare bones necessary to add a SignInManager to your project. And yes. We built it, it compiled, which, ship it, right? Yeah. But when we run it, we're going to see, for several reasons, that we still have a lot of work to do. One of them being that our SignInManager is top to bottom filled with not implemented methods.
Right.
But part of that was so that I would like to personally see the interaction with it from the outside platform. What methods are being called? What do we think the expectations are for us? And that might be doing a couple things, looking at the default implementation maybe, or just trying a few things and saying, okay, let's see. This appears to be the part where we're supposed to sign them in. So let's sign them in, right? Like, right. Yeah, the SignInManager is so it's the SignInManager is what you'll find if you dig under the first level of the ASP.NET Core code yourself. You may have noticed that the implementation that you get when you create a new project uses this SignInManager to sign people in, and it might use it in some other places too. I suppose we could do a search to find where else it's used. And when we started this series, I intentionally tried to strip it all the way down to the barest of metal. What is the bare minimum to sign someone in? And for me, it's kind of like strip the whole thing down so that we can build the layers back up again and try to at least get a good understanding of the trade-offs you make when you maybe adopt this, don't adopt this, because there's always going to be a trade-off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You could go a long way in this world. You could watch this whole series and watch everything we've done and really dig in with us and go a long way towards file, new project, individual accounts, take all that template code and use it. But at least I would hope that you would say, but I know what it's doing. I know how to disable what I don't need. And I'm not going to be surprised if something happens because, hey, I watched the shows and so I see what it all did.
Right.
I guess none of this is necessarily an endorsement either way of you should never use the templates and you should always build it from scratch. It's so that we learn.
Yeah. Things are never that extreme.
Yeah, right. There's in fact, even last time I had told you I was still kicking around. Would I use the SignInManager if I was not going to take individual logins? And we got to really be clear about what that term means. It's the term that's used in the templates, individual accounts. And it means that you're going to take a username, password. You're going to store it. You don't actually store passwords. You store it yourself in a database you own.
Right.
Which is going to be the solution in many cases. Many applications are going to want that user sign-up experience and all that. You're going to want that. And that's all built into the template. But if you wanted external providers only, which is a use case I see to be very valuable, perhaps at work, for example, then do I even want it? And I know last time I was kind of leaning towards no, but after having a little time to think about it, I realized that what I might be ignoring is not what SignInManager might get you on actual sign-in, but what about registration?
Yeah.
So I'm a new user who's come and I'm showing up with my Google account, my Entra ID account. I'm showing up with my, I don't know, all the different OAuth providers that I could use. I can use Facebook. I can use Twitter. They're all there. But I want now to capture that that user's information so that when they come back, I recognize them and I can associate them with stuff that has meaning on my site, your profile for my site. I don't yet know this answer. I think we're going to discover well, maybe SignInManager helps us with that. So we'll find out.
Cool. All right. Sounds fun.
Yeah. So where were we? Let's see if we can get this one going today. Okay. I keep forgetting about this view where we're over on the right.
Yeah.
So I haven't used it in a while. But and then I think this view we had intended so that we could come along and put stuff at the bottom, and then I just don't know that we ever do. Like, let's see. I think we have
make it easy when we get comments to
like we have this one. Oh, that's true. The comments are, yeah, we have that, and we even have let's see, we have that maybe. Oh, sorry, that took longer than I thought. Okay, that kind of fits. Oh, cool. Interesting.
Now, what is that? Yeah. Is that a special banner?
So in the banner, I just added it really quickly. Okay. So if anybody's wondering, we're using a product called StreamYard. It's not a secret, but it allows the two of us to actually connect pretty quickly, share screens, and do a lot of things that we owned before using OBS. So in any case, what are we looking at? We are currently looking at a, this is based on our application Blazor Auth from scratch, which is something we can find on GitHub, the TheDevTalkShow, which I will immediately take this link and put it in our chat here. So we have the Blazor Auth from scratch repository, which has two projects, a server project, which this only uses the server-side rendering mode of Blazor, and then the WebAssembly project brings in a project that was started as a global WebAssembly application and introduces authentication to that from scratch. So the GitHub repo is available for people to take a look at, and the base for this new part was where we left off on the server, where on the server we actually have an application that we can log you in, although we don't take a password. We just take your name and that's it. And we can also use an external provider. I think we've implemented Google and we've implemented Entra ID. So
yes, yep,
yeah. But what we've done now is we've added this piece, which we haven't used before. We have add identity core, which you will find is used in the templates. Adds and configures the identity system for the specific user. Okay, and the user type we own. This is our application user. It's, as we can see right there in the tooltip, that this is from our code, Blazor Auth from scratch. And we can quickly find it. For now, I've decided to put it here in the data group. We are not adding anything to the base identity user that comes in the platform. Not adding anything yet, but it's here in case we want to. And we have started creating our own user store, because without a user store, you can't implement, SignInManager uses a user store. That's the key.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so all we did was we created a user store. We named it very simply. You wouldn't have to call it my user store in your app, but this, I think in some case, makes it really clear to everybody that this is ours. We're off the base IUserStore, and IUserStore is a generic that requires a type. And so the type is application user store. But nothing's implemented yet. So my expectation is that all of these things blow sky high the first time the app tries to use them. But what we're going to see first, I believe, is that add identity core, at least for now, might be more than we're ready for.
Okay.
And what you'll see is we were able to, after doing that, we didn't really touch anything else yet. We haven't included entity framework support or anything yet, because for now, I think I'm going to avoid that, mainly to show that there's two pieces to this game. It's where do you store the stuff, but also the implementation of your user and your own UserStore. Nobody says it has to be Entity Framework, and I think my plan is to kind of keep it in memory at first. I know that means that it's not persistent, but
Right.
more to understand what it's doing, and then we'll implement a persistent backend later.
Yes. Yeah, because it's easy for us to kind of reset just by, starting and stopping again. The debugging session.
Yeah, we'll just start the app over, and
Yep.
So we got this in last time. We built the solution. It built. It was 9 o'clock. It was time for stand up. Had to run and grab a cup of coffee or something. Hopefully, you had a great Monday as well. But here's what I think is going to happen. I'm pretty sure when I run this, we're not going to get out of startup CS. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'll surprise myself. But here we go. Some services are not able to be constructed.
Oh, wow.
So the question is, where are we? We have clearly thrown an exception from some piece of code, and it's code that's in. This is how I have Visual Studio set up, where I am linked to the symbol server, source server for ASP.NET and .NET, so that it just drops me right into the base platform code, which has been very helpful for us on the show. There's no doubt that if you enable it yourself, it will add more, I don't want to say complexity, but there's more that your IDE is doing. And so you might say to yourself, oh, it's slower when I do this. Well, yeah, of course. So turn it off if you kind of got what you need. But this lets us jump right to, quote unquote, the problem. And if I scroll up a little bit, we're going to see that there is some method here. This is the dependency injection is what it really is. And the ASP.NET Core dependency injection is trying to, it's basically trying to instantiate some services. But the question is from where? So if I hit the call stack, and let's scroll up a little bit, this is also from dependency injection. So that's not going to help us too much. But if I go back one more step in the call stack, now we are in the host application builder. So this is more, we're kind of getting back to .NET. I still don't know that this is going to tell us exactly what it is. Let me see. Would it be easier for me to go one back to the web application builder? No, I still feel like it's not going to tell us. I feel like the problem here is that this code is so generic that, well, we might get a little help here, although there's 221 services to add. So finding them all is crazy. Yeah. I think there's a better way to figure out what's going on. And so I'm just going to go ahead and stop this.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go to add identity core, and let's go to its definition.
All right.
So add identity core, this is, I think, what the problem is it has other services it wants to use.
Oh, okay.
I'll be honest that I think this is it. So if I put a breakpoint here and run it, okay, we've gotten here, and it's saying, I think it will. I believe it will, because it's going to say, we're implementing our own UserStore, but user validator, oh, it didn't bomb there.
I think part of that is the method, right? The method is try.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Whenever we have that try around the method, it seems to protect you code-wise.
Yeah. Oh, I see. It's just returning the builder. Okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's SignInManager is the issue. So let's drop into that and set a breakpoint here so that we get to it. Add SignInManager dependencies. And again, to stress, this is code it's part of ASP.NET Core identity. That's the DLL we're in, and we're using Visual Studio to let us jump beyond our own code into the platform. Add an HTTP context accessor. That seemed to work. Add a security stamped validator. Like you said, we're still cruising. There has to be something that says, no, maybe it's, you know what it could all be? It could all be right here, builder.build.
Okay.
Is that you get here and then,
Bang.
It just makes it hard, in my opinion, to kind of know, okay, what, in a way, you almost wish, well, it is saying here, error while validating the service descriptor for user manager. So it's, I guess we're getting some help.
Yeah.
We couldn't activate user manager. That's kind of what I'm feeling.
Okay. So if we, I guess, do that drill in on the user manager bit and see what we see.
Yeah, I think maybe what we do is drill in, like you said, to add identity core. But now, what if I go to this definition? And remember, this is dependency injection. So what I'm thinking is that if we look at its constructor, does that tell us here are the things that it's going to come for?
It's interesting because those were all of the things when you look at where that user manager line was. Those are all the things above it with the passwords and the options and things that it was trying to see if it could pull in from the scoping.
Yeah, and so now I think for me the question is, let's go get some inspiration from the documentation. I think is last time I brought up a piece of documentation that maybe I should just have read a little bit more closely. That this here, let's see, I'm going to get this over here and then we'll get it on screen. This documentation says, here's what you got to do. Custom storage providers for ASP.NET Core identity. Then they have what is the ASP.NET Core identity architecture? Okay, well, you have an identity manager, and then they say, example, a user manager, a user store. So to create a custom storage provider, that's this. Create the data source, the data access layer, and the store classes. You don't need to customize the managers or your app code that interacts with them. That's the blue. But when creating a new instance, oh, I see. They make it feel like you don't have to override user manager.
Yeah, it seems this seems to be pointing us away from that for this.
Yep. We certainly want a user, but I wonder if does that mean I feel like you could create your own custom user manager that probably does not implement as much.
Right, but it seems that it may not. Yeah, there might be other things that are failing as opposed to the data source that we're looking at here.
Yeah, definitely. And then you would be taking over. I mean, I think you could do this, but you would be taking over some of its features. So,
or not implementing them.
Well, right. You just don't implement them because the user manager that it's trying to, in fact, I think that's the issue, is it can't construct this because it says, I know how to find one of these, but I wasn't able. The iLogger, I suppose it would get.
Yeah, that should be part of the services provider.
I think so, yeah.
Right. I mean, isn't that just builder.services?
I think you're right. And then this looks like a concrete implementation, so.
Okay.
But where did these other things come from, I wonder?
Right. And those things are definitely more identity focused as opposed to platform common services focus.
Okay, so that was add identity core is where I found that, or no? Let's see. If I go into add identity core. So what's interesting though is there is default policy here.
Well, it's trying to add, and I guess that's the thing, right? It's trying to add it. So if we looked at the scoped, if there's a way to search the scope services, can we find the password validator and see which one got pulled in? Remember how we hit that breakpoint? We saw the 221 services.
Yeah, that's right. So would that be something I want to do here? I'm sorry, not build. I want the builder. And then I want the services.
Right.
And I suppose we'd only want the ones maybe that are scoped or something. You know, I've done this before, actually, where I've said, okay, builder dot services dot where. I don't know if we've done this on the show.
No.
But I have done this.
Okay.
And it was for this reason, to try and figure something out.
So you want Microsoft identity, right? You're looking for identity components.
Yeah. Yeah.
Service type.
Right. And I think what I've even done is I've said, okay, so let's just get one. Service type Microsoft.extensions. But to your point, I probably want this to be Microsoft ASP.NET Core.
I did.
So let's say starts with, what is this, a string for one thing? Service type may not be a string right now. I think it's not. Yeah, it's not. It's a type.
Okay. It's the full name of the type. Okay.
Just to see if I'm on the right track. But no, I've certainly done this. Say, what services are we? Oh, wow, look at this. I'll bet you, is this like reflection over all 221 types here? Plus, I had this little thinking that this is real CPU bound.
Oh.
And for some reason, I feel like on my own, this isn't, you know, like StreamYard seems to be eating up CPU quite a bit. But in any case, yeah, I was hoping to get an answer here. But wow, it's really, Visual Studio is definitely saying I'm still working on it.
I hope so, doing that for each one of the 220 services that are there.
Yeah, I might see if it'll let me cancel it. There is a cancel button, but that didn't seem to do what I wanted. Oh, wait, here we go. So the first 6 were displayed. So yeah, this could theoretically work for us, but
yeah,
we really want, we only want specific ones.
True.
So
if we go back to the identity core, right?
What was it? Is it add SignInManager dependencies that I want? Or you're right.
It was definition, right?
Do you think the exception was trying to tell us which specific service it couldn't, and maybe we just didn't read enough of it?
That's possible. It did at least mention something in the identity space, so at least it was pointing us in that rough area.
I wonder if we can just find one that we think should be getting resolved.
Okay.
I kind of believe this one should be getting resolved because dependency injection is saying specifically, go grab the default one out of the platform. So I want to believe that. And then it was user validator.
Yep.
I think
Hopefully there should only be one.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking maybe first.
Yeah.
To try and cut this off a little quicker.
Yep.
Of course, if there isn't one, then I guess it's gonna throw an exception, which is fine.
Oh, no, we've already passed through that break.
Here we go.
So there
yep.
You go.
So there's one. Oh no.
Through an exception.
First did throw an exception. Invalid operation. Sequence contains no matching element. Interesting.
So that one's not there. But I would think that try add scoped method, and maybe we look at that, because it should give us some kind of an implementation. Like if there's not one there, here, use this, new up this class.
So basically, let's get to where it's trying to resolve this.
Okay.
Some services are not able to be constructed. There could be an array here that I should be paying attention to because it is an aggregate exception.
Okay.
So maybe I should.
See, that's saying service type is user claims principal. Oh, it's got them all: IUserStore, IUserManager.
Oh yeah, IUserStore. Oh well, for one thing, hold on a second. That's actually a really good point. This could be a problem from the beginning here. We've created a user store of our own.
Okay.
Right? That's what this is. My user store.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Where did I add it to the dependency injection?
Oh, we didn't, did we?
Yeah, I don't see it anywhere. Okay. That's useful. So now
so prior to that add identity core, we've got to add a reference, or we've got to add a I guess a singleton that is your user store, right?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned that it's not reentrant. So if I say builder.services add scoped. Oh, and look at that.
Oh, wow.
I actually think that's exactly what I wanted to say, except that this just needs a using statement. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
This is good.
Yeah. So that makes sense. I would like to, at least at some point, go look at the template and see if we see a similar statement, or do we think this statement probably was consumed by some other bit of code, like some other extension method did this, Okay, so we got back to here.
Yeah.
And we know that pretty much the problem nothing's going to really happen until we get to build.
Right, but if you do F10 and just like step over where we are and then try and rerun your thing in the immediate window, it should be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. So which one was I trying to do last time?
You were trying to do the user validator. I think if you just go up arrow, you'll get the statement again.
There it is.
Yep.
Oh.
Builder does not exist.
Well, not where we're at in the code. That's true.
Yep. So just make that services with a small s.
Oh. Is that a thing? Is that for real? Where we're sitting right now, we don't have link. Is that real?
First or default?
That might be real.
Oh, you're saying there's no link at all?
There's no link in the context of where that statement is running right now. I think I'm right about that. So oddly enough, it might be easier just to get out here.
Just to let it run. Yeah. Yeah. You didn't get an error. You got an
well, it said evaluation of data method is not supported.
Huh.
All right. Let's see what happens now when we run this. Is do we blow up somewhere else? Or, so this might surprise you a little bit.
Huh.
I'll admit that surprises me. Maybe it shouldn't.
It's based on the docs. It shouldn't, right?
Based on what the doc said, that you shouldn't have to build your own user manager.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know necessarily that they're saying don't do it, but I guess what
Right.
they're trying to encourage you is that we've got default implementation. As long as you have a user store, you're ready to go.
Right. All the customizable bits are in those things that we're going to try and inject at runtime.
So let's go back over what we've proven here. We've proven that creating your own app user, creating your own user based on, I believe it's identity user, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Create a user based on identity user. This step is technically optional. I could do this. I'm positive that we could use the base one this entire time, but I'm not a big fan of that because, and we talked about this a little bit last time, is I think it's something that will be harder to change later.
Yep, absolutely.
Because, once you start tying this down to a database, I don't even care. Use the Entity Framework, use something else. Doesn't matter. Once you start tying it down to a data store, now you want to go back and change it. I think that'll be a little bit more painful.
Yeah.
So we might as well just create our own application user. We can add to it here. And then we created our own user store, which is an implementation of IUserStore. That's all we added to dependency injection. So far in our from scratch implementation, all we've done is add that. And we've said, now go ahead and use Identity Core, use the SignInManager, use the default token providers, which is very similar to what the template code does. And our app comes up and works. Now, I'm sure the next question will be, well, did the sign-in work? Sure, of course it is, because we're not using the SignInManager in the rest of our code yet.
Good point.
This is our original code.
Yeah, but does it also potentially, and we're not using SignInManager, so it's too early to tell, but those other things that are there, like password validator and such, we have to see if we need those to even get the SignInManager to work, right? We got it to run. We didn't necessarily get it to work.
Right. So we also have a whole series of breakpoints that are not being hit yet.
Yep.
So that's fine. So now I think what we do is maybe just to preserve what we've done so far, to create another login component.
Okay.
So here's our current one. Just maybe, I'm not saying we have to do this, but that way we don't really modify this.
Yeah, I think that's fair because we can see them side by side at that point.
Right. So we'll say add Razor component. I don't know that this really gets me exactly what I want, but we can fix it. And we'll say SignInManager base login, which is a big mouthful. And I think I'm going to start by just taking some inspiration from the old one.
Sure, makes sense.
But we will say okay, SignInManager based login. Now, I don't think we're going to use some of these things. I don't think we're going to use HTTP context. I do think we're going to use a credential. There could be some interesting clashes here with the other credential we made. We may want to refactor that in a little bit. It's also yelling at me about other things here. Okay. Let me comment this out for now. Comment this out for now. I'm surprised that a lot of this IntelliSense hasn't kicked. I wonder if I have to build it.
Cool. That worked.
But I'm just a little, I'm wondering why I'm not getting a lot of this stuff to light up. Okay. All right. Now I think personally I need to bring up our reference app. So when people, if you're wondering what's the reference app, it's going to be an application where all we did was we took the file new project template and then we just use it to look at it.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing that up now, and then we're going to bring that IDE window over as soon as it loads up here. Okay, so we have the login page. So the co-producer of the show wants to see what's going on.
Go for it.
I'm not sure if he'll appear on camera today, but definitely is here.
Awesome.
Okay. So what code are we looking at? We are looking at the login page that comes with the template. And why is that important? Because when you log in a user, in fact, where else is this on the page? When you submit the login form, we call login user on this page. When I say we, the template does.
Yep.
So that you end up here, and we use the SignInManager.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the beginning of it. So we're going to want the SignInManager. Let's go back to our project now. I'm going to minimize that. When somebody submits this code, we may not need anymore. I imagine we still want the if model is not null. For now, I'm going to go ahead and comment this. We'll delete it in a second. Took too much. And it's interesting that it says password, but I'd kind of like to see the IntelliSense come up. So the question now is, I'm wondering, I don't think it knows how to do that. I want to inject the SignInManager. I'm going to go take a look just to see how it's done over here. Inject SignInManager with your application user. That all makes sense. Okay. Cool. We're doing the same thing. Still a little baffled as to why you seem to be having some issues here. Okay. Is this going to start? Oh, it's not going to do it. I was hoping that we would get some IntelliSense here. Are the usings and the injects supposed to be? I don't think they have to be. I was just wondering if they were supposed to be separated by a line, but if anything, it seems to make it more interesting. So, okay, I was just hoping that we would get something, but we're not. So, see, I'm getting IntelliSense on these pages. It makes me wonder, what am I doing differently that's preventing that from lighting up?
Render mode?
Look at this little plus sign.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, your render mode. I don't see one here though. Of course, this one's now doing the same thing, but we're still getting IntelliSense. Tell me that wasn't it. No, it doesn't seem like that was it. It makes me feel like there's something else. Maybe it's stuff like this. Maybe getting rid of the model. But see, oh, I know. Credential comes from down here. See, what I'm concerned about is I don't know that. Am I going to be okay having my own credential? Because see, you know how we had our own here? Are we going to have to pull this out?
Oh.
Just for convenience, right?
Yeah.
We threw credential here.
Yep.
But I'm wondering if we're going to get to a spot where, okay, well now you have essentially a conflict. I don't know. I feel like I'm fighting something that might be really obvious.
No, and this seems familiar as well, and I'm wondering. Yeah, and that was where I was going to suggest. Just
is this
close
restart Visual
project,
Studio?
come back.
We haven't had to do stuff like that, right?
No.
So I've been kind of happy thinking like, okay, the tooling is kind of doing what we want, which is cool. And now that we've done that, still not getting everything I would expect. Like I'm expecting these to turn blue, right?
Yep.
Yeah, these turn blue, but they're not. Oh, hold on. What's going on here? Found art markup element with unexpected name input text. If this is intended to be a component. See, this worked fine. Did I do something wrong copying this in?
No, but it might be something in how it's interpreting that.
Oops, I just changed this just to see. But
Yeah.
you're right. Something's going on here.
And if you take that input text out, does that remove it?
If I just take the thing out completely?
Yeah. It does, but not for the edit.
Right. For whatever reason, I feel like what's happening is it's not picking this up as being a Blazor component. So that's weird because I didn't think I had to do anything special other than create a new file. We've done this before. And I thought I did it through Razor component, but maybe I was wrong. Okay. What if instead of what if we start bringing this stuff over? We've never had to do it this way before. Like I feel like everything's.
Yeah, but even with that in it, you're not getting the IntelliSense or
Yep.
any of the coloring.
Yep. we're in the same project and everything, so it seems really strange. Yeah, because this could be a real interesting issue for us, huh?
Yeah, it's a frustrating one for sure.
I have not been looking at our comments, by the way.
I have not. I only have one of them up, and I haven't seen any.
Okay.
One of the services. So.
Yeah, that's weird. We definitely got Waleed is here, which is great. And then
Hey.
just a note from Christian that apparently I'm coming in louder.
Than me?
Yeah, that's just what the note says.
That's normal.
Oh, it could be. That might be something that I have to look into. Okay, so this is really weird because it seems like we're having trouble adding a new component today, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I keep trying to figure out if I'm naming it something that I shouldn't. I don't think that's it. We're seeing that the other components all seem to be fine, right? And then we're definitely seeing the Blazor syntax engine or however it figures out, like it's picking this stuff up. But when we create a new one, it does not seem to do that. And, doing little things like rebuilding don't seem to be helping there. Because all I really want to do is get us a login form so we can start to see and see these aren't even turning. Oh, well, they're not turning this color.
Yes.
See that?
Yeah. Which is.
But now it's saying like, well, okay. It's still very strange. All right. Let's go back to where we were. I think we'll need some of this. We're going to need the uninitialized. We're going to need supply parameter from form, which I'm pretty sure requires, well, actually, I don't think it requires anything, but it's just not picking any of this stuff up. Okay, well, let's see. What if we move forward and see if it builds and see what happens then?
Yep.
Okay, so what else do I need from our original project? I was working on this. We need a submit method. And we need to do something when the model is not null. Okay, and then we think we're going to need a credential class, which may or may not have to be refactored out later. Right now, we're only taking the name, but we're bringing in a new thing here, the SignInManager. So the SignInManager, when you submit, if the model is not null, it was our result. Well, I love how it just says here, you probably want all this code. And what's really interesting about Copilot here is it's learning about our app, and it's saying, well, when you sign someone in, then you create a security context. Like it really just goes for it. It even knows what cookies and everything we've been using. Yeah. So that's appreciated. But for now, let's not do too much. Because I actually don't expect this to work. We're missing a few things. For one thing, our model name is just a model. We don't have a password. Although it looks like it's figured that out and said, like, I'll put password in. I will say that it's not persistent. And I'm trying to remember what the fourth part of it is. If I go back to this, the
It
fourth
has
parameter.
doesn't have to do with how many tries.
Lockout on failure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So my expectation is that if all of this does what we expect it to do, is it should trigger talking to our sign-in manager kind of for the first time. We haven't seen that yet. One thing we have to do is we have to put this somewhere. So, meaning we have to use it. This is just a component. So let's
Right.
go to, it's on our home page. And my own login is here. So let's, just for now, let's go ahead and not use that. And we'll use the sign in. What's it called? Sign in login.
Yes. That was the last one I did.
Yeah, it's still. Is it a namespace issue? No, that doesn't make sense.
No, because we
because
didn't.
you don't put anything.
Yeah.
It's still succeeding. I'm just wondering if it's going to just blow up and say, I don't know what this component is. But we're going to find out very shortly. App loaded up. It says you're not authorized. Okay, that's fine.
Nice.
But it also didn't render the component.
Yeah. You do a rebuild?
Not yet, I haven't, but I will. Map Razor components. Okay. Sign in login.razor. And then let me go back to app.razor, and I'm sorry, not app.razor, home.razor, and say when you're not authorized, we want the sign in login to be rendered.
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't seem to be taking it as a component, which makes me wonder, like, what is the simple thing that I'm doing? Because what's really happening here, I think, is Blazor is just looking at that and saying, I don't know what that is. And in fact, it might be interesting to see, is it passing it on to the browser just as is?
Okay.
Which I thought we'd be able to see if I come here. Yeah, see, it's just passing it on.
What?
Yeah, it's not getting rendered. It's not getting picked up as a Blazor component. Pretty mysterious.
A little bit.
So what if, just to try and see something in the last few minutes, what if I take this? I didn't want to do this, but let's go back to our original login component. And instead of signing in this way, let's comment this out for now and try to sign someone in like this. And what's it going to complete saying?
No, async.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's true. Async task, right?
Yep.
So that's helpful. Now it says the sign-in manager doesn't exist. Helpful. So look at this. This is all doing exactly what you'd expect. Except that we don't have the sign-in manager injected. Would it even do that for us? Wouldn't that be cool? No, it's not going to, which is okay. Here, say sign-in manager. Whoops. Saying possible no reference. I thought maybe that would be good enough, but that's fine. Okay, this makes me, there's build error.
Go to the top of that control that you were editing, the application user. There you go.
Yep. This is going to be interesting to figure out, is why it's picking up these components. Oh, but I didn't change the component back in home.razor.
Oh.
Meaning it's still trying to use that
Yep.
sign-in login that nothing seems to want to allow. So do my own login. Skip past the breakpoints. And okay, so we blew up on dispose. It's trying to dispose the IUserStore, saying that it's not implemented. Now, I don't know that we have anything to dispose yet.
Right.
So I'm feeling like I'm okay with anything to dispose so that we can at least continue. But that was our first example that the sign-in manager was engaged, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So just bringing up that method, I'm not sure why. Oh, you know what? Injecting it.
Sure.
So
Gave you an instance of it.
Yeah, we're creating a new instance, and here it is. Okay, now all we're getting is the name. So I'm just going to put my name in, and this takes us here. Let's ask the sign-in manager to sign in with a password. Of course, the password's kind of meaningless, but when it does that, we call. This is now in our IUserStore, find by name async. This is great, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like we could even kind of cheese this a little bit and say that if the name is Chris, then return this specific application user. And really, right. It's just to see it work. It's not. I don't know that I want to dwell on that implementation too long, because I don't want people to get stuck on like doing stuff in memory. But we're trying to learn how this thing works. So definitely the find. Now it is trying to find the user by the name, and the name was normalized. That's really interesting. Ready for a SQL call, I guess.
Yes.
And we need to return an application user. So sounds like a good place to pick up next time. Sorry for getting stuck for a good amount of time there trying to know why can't I create a new Razor component today?
Something to definitely go take a look at.
Yeah, that's really strange. So here we are. What did we do? We implemented a IUserStore. We've got it part of dependency injection. In order to figure out that we were not injecting it, fought some exceptions until finally that was clearer. And then I was tempted to create a user manager, but the documentation and Rich talked me out of it. So that's cool. We're getting to where we're at. I will be very interested to see what happens when some of the other default implementations start kicking in, things like the password validator and stuff. And so I could see a use case which we're going to find out when we start doing the external providers. We'll have to see how those get signed in.
Right.
Because maybe leaving that default implementation is fine if you're not using it. I don't know. We're going to find that out.
Yeah. No, it sounds cool.
All right. So hopefully this was helpful to you watching, and thank you very much for joining us this morning, wherever you are. It's morning here on the East Coast, but it's definitely about time for our stand-up meeting.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So we have to figure out who's. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Who gets us in and out of these things, because we keep back and forth on this. But awesome. We got further, which is awesome. And yeah, so let's we'll wrap it up here for today. We could probably do one more this week, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Friday for me. So
same. I think Friday sounds good. Cool. So look forward to come back on Friday. We'll see if we can move this a little further along. And so for Chris, I'm going to sign off and say thanks for watching Dev Talk Show.